always do pretty well. We've won 3, drawn 2, and lost 1. But then we'll go and thrash Nice away in Nice, and then draw at home against Wraith Rovers.
Yeah.
Which is what happened.
Yeah, I do get the picture. Very inconsistent. But yeah, a very good performance against a wobbling Spurs side. It does look as if they're coming off a decent sort of couple of years. So yeah, very interesting to see how they're doing. Anyway, listen, we're live, everybody. Welcome to Brain Food Live on Air, bringing it to you every week, no fail. It's episode 286 with you, Adam and Evit. We are keep rocking on. I just worked out, actually, having sort of done the maths yesterday. We're going to end up doing 50 episodes this year, which is more than I think we've ever done. We usually hit at 40, 45 or something. I mean, we kind of take summer off or something. But this year we somehow hit 50. So it's a crazy number. So thank you, everybody, firstly, for joining and kind of spending time with us. It's been kind of a weekly a tradition these days, and it's fantastic that we're basically still rolling. So great to have you all on the show. This is going to be the final part, I think, of our review in 2024 series, where we've been basically reviewing different topics through the year, see how the year has gone for us. And of course, we're going to end it with the state of talent acquisition. How has the market been for us in this industry? And it's going to be a fascinating conversation because we've got people from community organization, we've got people who are heads of function, we've got Ashby who are going to provide some stats for us as well. It's going to be very, very interesting to see, what the state of play is for real in our industry. So if you're interested in that, which you should be, given what it is you do, you're in the right place. Okay, let's do some sound checks. Firstly, I'm now completely traumatized by certain snafus I've had in the past. So let's make sure whether the audio and visual is okay. We should be broadcasting this on Crowdcast, of course. If you can hear us here on Crowdcast, let me know in the chat whether the audio and visual is fine. We're also broadcasting this from at least a dozen LinkedIn Lives. So loads of people are supporting us with this, restreaming it out to the universe. If you can hear it and see us here on LinkedIn Live or in anybody's LinkedIn, do let us know in the comment section there. We're going to try and interact with everyone as best we can on Crowdcast and on LinkedIn. So make sure that you're fully engaged and happy to chat with us from there. Okay, we're all good everywhere, which is great news. Great. We have Adam Gordon back onto the show. Been MIA for the last couple of weeks, but you've been busy, haven't you? Lots of things going on with you guys. So great to see you back, Adam. I hope life is good with you.
Life's really good. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Hi, everybody.
Good stuff. It's wonderful to have you back. And in fact, I wonder whether we should immediately bring on Willem here, because he can tell us a little bit about Ashby, who are our sponsors, by the way. We cannot do Brain Food Live without companies sponsoring the show. And every week, companies are going ahead and doing that, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm also pleased to say 2025 is looking particularly good as well. I thought, we might be struggling, getting sponsors for this, but I think we're probably very nearly there in terms of getting the entire year sponsored out. So if you do want to get involved in this, do drop me a comment, DM or whatnot. We can get you involved. There's a couple of series ideas I've got, which I think could be quite interesting. I want to do a high volume hiring series. So where we target mega scale hiring and just highlight, big companies that recruit, 100,000 people. I want to do a CEO says series. So this is going to hit, the recruiters are going to hate this. But I want to get CEOs that basically say, yeah, my hiring sort of heuristics are this, something, terribly non-PC correct. However, I want to hear from company builders. These individuals have built businesses. So let's hear how they think about it. And I want to do a final series about how to hire for unique organizations, like how to hire for NASA or something, or how to hire for Buckingham Palace or whatnot. So if you want to get involved in all of that, then make sure you do so. Anyway, we've got the handsome devil that he is, Wilhelm Wijnands, sitting there patiently as we witter away. So Wilhelm, wonderful to see you, man. Great. I was in Amsterdam yesterday, actually, but obviously we didn't get the chance to catch up. But great to see you. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What is you do, man?
Thanks for having me again, Hung. Good to see you, Adam. Hey, everybody. My name is Willem. I lead Ashby EMEA community. Used to be head of TA, early customer of Ashby, number 8, I think. Love that so much that I joined. And now I have the luxury of amplifying the reach of Ashby, but mostly through my customers and soon-to-be customers. So if you don't know about Ashby, all-in-one hiring platform, we automate sourcing for you. We have AI-supported outreach. We have sequencing, native interview scheduling, searchable CRM, advanced analytics, which we're most known for, I think, still, and all in a lightweight ATS. So, yeah, really engaging for me and hopefully also for you.
It's a short way, by the way. Willem generally just has dinner parties. That's his job. I've just seen that. That's basically his bullet point number 1. Go and have dinner parties with people. So he's got the best job in the universe. But let me tell you this. Ashby have been one of those companies that's always been mentioned these days. Whenever anybody's thinking about ATS upgrades and what have you, suddenly, like within a very, very short space of time in terms of the evolution of the company, Ashby has been always in the mix for that decision making. So spectacular rise for what is still a relatively new business, and loads of people are endorsing, particularly on the data-driven side. It looks like it's very powerful. Reporting side, very powerful. Loads of different functions, which seems to be giving the company a real boost. So listen, Willem, we're going to bring you back, by the way, because I want to get your input from the community side. But let's sort of bounce you out at this point. We're going to review the newsletter real quick, and then we'll bring on the community folks, and then we'll talk about the state of TA. So awesome. Great to see you, man. And make sure you share the link to Ashby in the chat so everyone can know sort of how to find out more.
I will. Thank you.
Cool. Very, very good. Okay, Adam, let's review the newsletter. We haven't actually done this for ages. So have you read it? Did you read it last week? And if so, let's pick out a couple of things that might be interesting to talk about.
I did. I read it every week. I tell everybody to read it. If you're not reading it, sign up and read it. So the first one is our friend Andrea Lungulescu's post about recruitment inefficiencies. Andrea is the principal recruiter. And so she's written an article which outlines 16 recruitment inefficiencies and 14 suggested solutions to these. So the inefficiencies that she highlighted included things like poor employer branding, inefficient sourcing, unqualified applications, unstructured interviews, prolonged negotiations, and things like that. This produces like enhanced recruitment costs, enhanced recruitment marketing costs, lost productivity, candidates dropping out, admin burdens. She suggested some good solutions in there. And that's the first one that I wanted to talk about. I think that we all need to look at every single process. We've all got in talent acquisition 70 plus processes. And we need to fine tune each one of these.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. It's a very popular post, and rightly so, because I think we need to get into the minutiae of it. Like, how do you optimize for all of these individual stages? And if you can do that, actually, if you add it all together, all of those optimizations lead to significant success. It's just getting that chain together and making sure every single thing is optimized. So really, really cool post on that. Make sure you check it out. Andrea is actually coming on to the show a bit later. She's going to be talking about sort of what she sees in the German and DACH market in terms of the hiring. So we'll get Andrea on for that as well. Okay, give us another one real quick.
So let's talk about HR in general. So the article in the New Statesman, I nearly posted something in the group. In fact, I don't know if I did or I didn't, about like how HR has taken over Britain, basically. It wasn't from the New Statesman. It was in something else. But anyway, this article argues. Yeah, I think it was the Telegraph, definitely, yeah. So basically, the article argues that the fast-growing HR profession in Britain really dominates Britain, basically. But the main thing is, what it's saying is it stifles productivity rather than enhances it. So the expanded influence and dominance of HR within organizations it is not leading to better outcomes. It's leading to more tribunals, more grievances, productivity stagnating. And the article really suggests that HR's influence, its size should be reduced, its influence should be reduced, it should be largely replaced by AI, and especially within the public sector, reduce that, and it could boost economic efficiency and growth.
Yeah,
I'm not saying this is my point of view. I just think it's an interesting one.
Absolutely. And it was my point of view either. And I kind of put a spoiler alert on there to say, everyone's going to be a bit upset by this. But worth reading, folks. Is HR too big? And what was really interesting in that post was that it turned out that the UK per capita had more HR professionals than almost every other country, apart from the Netherlands. So the Netherlands have more HR people than any other country per capita. Number 2 is UK. And then I would have thought France would be right up there, but France are actually, in the middle of the pack. So really, really interesting hypothesis. It was written actually by someone who wasn't just a journalistic hack. This individual was a private secretary for the Cabinet Office, and is now involved in doing things like making efficiency at government level and all the rest of it. So very, very interesting sort of dialogue. And I think there's a pro and con argument to it, but we in the people business need to be conscious that this conversation is happening outside of our little industry. Yeah. We need to be absolutely conscious of this. I think very explicitly this is happening in the US. US is very clear, HR people function seems to be in the crosshairs of Donald Trump, the incoming sort of administration. But I think that is going to wash over to across the Atlantic as well. So we just got to be aware and cognizant of some of the different types of pressures that are going to be interacting with us here. So very, very interesting. Do they have a point? If so, what can we do about that? And secondly, how much of it is kind of an ideologically driven attack that is unjustified? Well worth kind of just percolating through this. Not easy to chew over, I know, but do check it out.
The problem is, right, like nobody considers the legal department as being like, a sales generator. The HR really should be aiming to reposition itself as a sales generator, like in the way that talent acquisitions should be. Like, we bring the people in who build the business. That's the kind of message it should be. HR should be like giving itself a better reputation for sure. Whether it's bigger or smaller or whatever, it needs to do that. Otherwise, CEOs and CFOs are like, why has HR got a seat at the table? Get HR out of my boardroom. And, that's what's happening.
Yeah. Chief Automation Officer or something of that type, process efficiency, all that type of stuff. That's what HR need to embrace. We have to be, the optimizing the business. And lots of different things need to happen for us there. Anyway, worth having a look-see. Okay, give us one more before we dive into this, mate.
Right. The article in Business Insider about flattening the org structure, it's inspired by Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, and they want flatter structures. And so like job openings have been like really waning for the kind of mid-manager level, as companies, go and do this sort of flattening exercise. It leaves a lot of people really looking for jobs. And the concept of like middle managers playing a really critical role in communication and motivating people and coordinating teams is becoming a little bit harder to justify. But the problem is that the remaining managers are taking on more. There's more burnout. There's more disengaged employees. It's a phenomenon. It's one that I don't know about, like the pros and cons of this, but it's something that, in the organizational design world is becoming, a really big topic.
Yeah, the great flattening. Like, for instance, is AI delayering the companies? Like, are we having less tiers of management because we think that those managers existed to move information up and down the stack? But, perhaps AI can help us actually accelerate that without necessarily having loads of people involved. Seems that's the way forward, because the job growth has not been, what job growth there is has not been in the middle management. It's been at the IC level, and that's very conspicuous. So people are saying, look, you've got to be an individual contributor. So very, very interesting, and obviously relevant for anybody who has a manager at the end of their title, right? What does that mean for us? Okay, folks, let's get on with this, because it is also leads us to where we're at, State of TA. I want everyone to check out, if you're on Crowdcast, go to the right-hand side of your dashboard and check out the poll. Very simple question. Talent acquisition had a tougher time in 2024 and 2023. Do you agree, disagree, or is it about the same? Can you just drop a vote in there? Let us know how you feel, how the year has gone compared to the year previous. That should give us a little bit of a setting as to where we're at. And we'll bring on some of our community folks to talk us through this. So actually, we've seen Andrea. She's been very conspicuous there. So let me just invite her straight away. By the way, we're going to do roll on, roll off on this. So we're going to do community guys first, then heads of function second, and then, I don't know, someone else third. I can't remember. Some sort of order of this type. Don't worry. Everyone's going to come on. But we're going to bring on, it's a complicated show. What can I tell you? Okay, Emma, she's coming on. We need Becky. Is she even here? There she is. There we go. There's Andrea. How are you, Andrea?
I'm good. I'm flattered and I blushed. I'm so happy I wasn't on the screen earlier. I was red. So yeah, for the call out.
Okay. No worries. Yeah, of course, no worries. And you're also very dark there, but don't worry.
I know.
Don't worry about the lighting.
I'm sorry. I have a Jesus lamp, but it makes it even worse. I'm sorry.
I think it does make it a little bit worse. So don't do that. We have Becky here as well. How are you, Becky? Looking marvelous in blue.
I've got the antlers behind me, so I'm just like trying to make myself look like Maleficent or a reindeer.
You know what? I think you could get away with that, evil witch. No, sorry.
It's not very nice,
I did not mean that. I did not mean that, my dear. Let's do some intros. Andrea Lungulescu, can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Yes, I am Andrea. Professionally, I work as a principal talent acquisition partner. I've been in the industry for around 14 years plus, with some large corporates, with some consulting organizations. I started in England, like a lot of us do. And for the last 1 year and 8 months, I founded a community here in Germany, in Berlin, where I'm based. And it really picked up. Willem knows of it really quite well, as he so kindly supported us twice. So we must be doing something right. The community is 3,000 people strong, and it's probably one of the most vivid and engaged communities in the DACH region. It's not an easy feat. So I think it's a mixture of talent on the ground and then the community building piece.
Yeah, and it's been great. I mean, basically everyone really does endorse it and talk about it. So it's really made a huge impact. Make sure, if you're in the DACH region, do make sure you join it. Willem's back, like a bad penny, but there he is. He goes to too many parties for him not to be in the community section. So here he is. But Becky, let's introduce you firstly. Who are you? What it is you do?
Hi, everyone. My name's Becky Foden, and currently I'm a consultant leading on the early careers transformation for Synopsys. So Synopsys is a global tech firm. 90% of silicon smart chips, so chips are in your phone, computers, autonomous vehicles are developed by Synopsys. So it's the darling of the Silicon Valley, and I'm currently involved in transforming and harmonizing their whole high volume entry talent strategy, which is really exciting. Prior to that, I was at EY as the head of student recruitment.
And not only that, but you're also getting involved in community stuff as well. So tell us a little bit about this, Becky.
So this year, so I guess the state of TA have a lot of opinions about that, but I found myself out of work for 5 months, and I've always been interested in giving back to TA professionals, particularly as thinking back to when I was younger, I didn't feel like I perhaps had the right mentoring from TA. So we set up a community called TA Innovation Hive, and the idea behind it, it's a free community, and the idea is to give tools to TA professionals of real world examples and templates and tools that have been implemented and embedded in large and small organizations. So it's kind of a growing community. We did our first event just before a few weeks ago. So it's really for TA folk that want to innovate, but also want to get their hands on live tools that have been implemented in firms. And, so it's a really exciting new area. But my main focus is my full-time role, which is leading on early careers. But I've also led on exec recruitment and professional hiring. But my passion is very much on developing young people and thinking about, how we support the next generation of TA leaders as well. So that's why TA Innovation Hive kind of came about.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, Becky. And we finally have Emma Merrington here as well, the very famous Emma Merrington. Quickly introduce yourself, Emma. Who are you and what it is you do?
Hi, everybody. So yes, I'm Emma. I run a membership training and consultancy business called the Talent Labs. For those of you that are not familiar with the Talent Labs, we used to be called The Firm. So we began life as a LinkedIn group, about 15 years ago now. Scary how time flies. We've got 5,000 members globally and very much focus on helping organisations unlock their ability to recruit and retain talent.
Fantastic stuff. Emma, let's stick with you because you did a really interesting survey only about 2 weeks or so ago, didn't you? An annual kind of survey report. I thought it was really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what were the key highlights of that report that you saw?
Sure. So we can share a copy afterwards. So if people want to have a look. So every year we run this report, which is really sort of a state of the nation with regards to talent acquisition, what the key trends, insights are. So I think what was really interesting for me, perhaps, is not so much what people talked about in the report, but what they didn't talk about. So if we think about the strategic priorities year on year, they don't really change that much. So number 1 is candidate experience, number 2, EVP employer brand, 3, ED&I, and 4, data and metrics. Typically, the first 3 don't change at all. But what I thought was really interesting, that assessment and selection just isn't being talked about at the moment. And when we think about, say, the UK with the advent of day one impacts from employment legislation rights, etc. We also, when we look at the challenges with AI and the increasing number of applications that people are receiving. I was speaking to someone from the NHS last week for a technical role. Typically they would get, say, 40 applications, and they're now getting 300. So although AI is helping recruiters at early stages of the process in terms of helping them with job adverts, attraction, etc., actually we've got a real issue later on down in the pipeline when it comes to assessment selection. Yet when you look at our report, this from a strategic priority perspective, I think it was number 8. So that was really interesting to me. So I don't know with people on the call if that's something that they're finding at the moment, but I was surprised that assessment selection wasn't higher on the priority list, to be honest.
No, it's obviously going to be a big factor because everyone tells the same story, don't we? I mean, this is the year where we've been inundated with job applicants. I think, we now suddenly are aware that it's not just a small trickle through. It's like a times 10 increase of what we've previously had. What's going to happen in 2025? It's not going to get any slower. We're going to get even more. It won't be even the same. It'll be even harder. So I think anybody involved in assessment tech is going to be in good shape, really. That's one category where you can, I wouldn't say safely predict, but I would imagine it's going to be quite a high demand part of the thing, quite a high demand from the TA team. Let's talk about the state of the market for us as job seekers. I'm just checking out the poll results. Check it out here. Talent acquisition had a tougher time in 2024 and 2023. 75% agree with that comment. So only 10% disagreed. 13 said it was the same. Why was it harder? Like, what's your thoughts on this? Andrea, you want to kick us off with that?
I thought of something because I clicked on that agree like there was no tomorrow. And what I thought about is a couple of years ago, after the pandemic actually settled and everyone jumped on the wagon to hire recruiters because they were booming, they were growing the company. For me, it feels similar, just the other way around. Now they are jumping on the AI wagon and they think that they will just bring in 5-6 tools. Nobody knows how to use them. They kick everybody out, imagining that the tools will save the day, but they forget they need some people to train others on using the tools and implement the tools. So sometimes it may be that we just jump on a trend and we may, and I think this is what kind of happened, at least in some organizations in 2024. Jumped on a trend. I'm not even going to talking about budgets and so on and so forth. It's definitely there, and the geopolitical situation that we are in, they are not to be ignored. I have the feeling that just as we jump on it, hire everyone, now we jump on it, fire everyone, and replace with AI. And then it will come to a place where they will realize, oh, we need to balance it out somehow. So this is my kind of hope a little bit for 2025 for those who would be interested in going back in organizations like that.
Yeah, so the story you're saying, Andrea, is like massive overhiring post-pandemic, just that enthusiasm just spiking forward. Then obviously timeline shifted. We know what the reasons are, like huge changes in the world and so on. And yeah, we just like chopped hard again. Really, really tough, particularly in tech, by the way. And I know this is different in different industries, but technology or technology innovation in particular got a proper slap. Willem, you look as if you're very interested in saying something. So have you got a comment to make on this from the vendor side? Like what are you seeing from sort of Ashby's perspective here?
Yeah, I think from my customer base, at least, like we added quite a majority of companies that were the TAs had to do the amount of work that they were doing before, but with a smaller size of team and also with a CFO on their back and like consolidating all their tools. That's a real trend that I've been seeing with our customers and basically also with like my peers at large in the TA world. And I think that's also basically part of this of the AI advance, etc. Like we need to do more with less. And I also think from a vendor point of view, like a lot of companies are switching to vendors that enable that for them, which we are luckily one of them. So I think that's the general event that I see.
No, that's a really, really interesting. So, and Adam, you're nodding away because I think you're in the sort of the recruiter productivity space as well. It's like, okay, teams have been hacked down to a minimum. So you're going in with what would previously be considered a skeleton sort of staff. Guess what? You need to tool them up. You can't go with all technology because they can't actually perform to the numbers that you expect with the old stuff. They've got to have better tooling in order to succeed with these new numbers with less people. You want to say something on this, Adam?
Well, I posted this in the chat on Crowdcast, but for anybody that's listening to this not on Crowdcast, I just want to say that I think most companies are doing transformations right now. I'm not sure how they can do those transformations because the CEO doesn't even know what their organization is going to look like in a year's time, because there are so many changes and so many opportunities and so many problems to be dealt with. And this is not just in tech companies. This is like in most businesses. Downward pressure on do more with less, as Willem said, is not just in talent acquisition, that's in every single business function. And that's the only thing that's coming from the CEO and the CFO is we need to do more with less because everybody else is. And if we don't, we're going to be less competitive than everybody else in our market. But as a result, there's also lots and lots of decisions that are stagnating. And we in talent acquisition, in a lot of companies, can't really do things. We can't, like there's so many companies that have got hiring freezes or are only doing backfills or whatever it might be. Major investments into new markets and new business lines and things like that are just not happening right now. And we're definitely suffering from that. But so are people in finance and marketing massively. And like every other corporate function.
And in software development. I
Absolutely.
mean, did you see that Mark Benioff sort of interview where he said, you know what, we're not hiring any software people in 2025. This is Salesforce. It's like a software company. So they're literally saying they're not hiring any more software people. Why? Because he's saying that AI can do half it. So this is a big shot across the bows. All of these functions basically are shrinking, which tells us that maybe organizations shrink too. Andrea definitely wants to say something. Before I let you do that, let's bring on Emma, because one of the stats from your report that really kind of landed hard with me was the size of TA teams. And it seemed that the number or the percentage of solo recruiter functions increased this year compared to last, from I think was 68% to 71%. And I think that's kind of a kind of an illustration of what we're talking about, in the sense getting chopped down in terms of numbers of people, and then AI enablement, thinking, okay, maybe one person can do the work of what previously might have been in team 5. You want to make an observation on that stat, Emma?
Yeah, definitely. And sort of not just for sole recruiters, but we're seeing TA teams shrinking. We're seeing vacancy volumes per recruiter rising. And then we're also seeing the rise of the agile RPO. So really a big increase in terms of agility from an RPO perspective, and the number of percentage, but I think it sort of went up by 10-15% with people looking to outsource. So I think people, again, they're just not good at workforce planning. I think it was around 15% of respondents were practicing some sort of demand planning or workforce planning, which is really, really quite low. So then it gets increasingly difficult to then know how to structure your team to be able to deliver against that. So it's kind of like a perfect storm, really.
Yeah, very interesting. Willem, you just shared a very interesting comment there. Can you talk us through this? You're saying what recruitment coordinator? In fact, no. What am I saying? Just explain what you just shared there in the chat, Willem.
Yeah, so we do trend reports. So we analyze kind of like the user base. We did one recently on recruitment coordination and like from the RecOps point of view. And what we've seen across the board is that the amount of scheduling is still the same or more, but the teams that actually have RCs or like any like the support in place, those teams are being shrunk. So it's basically, you know, we have the data for kind of like recruiting coordination that's happening quite a bit. For recruiters, we might get there at some point, but it's basically part of the part of this new work revolution, I guess.
I have to say, every talent acquisition team that I know thinks it's behind everybody else, and you know, nobody can be behind if everybody thinks they're all behind, right? But if there's one thing that you actually are behind on is if you are still using humans to spend their day going and checking people's diaries and phoning up candidates and finding out when they want to do the interview, I mean, you're behind like what is acceptable now, I think.
Yeah, I ran a poll on LinkedIn, I think 2 weeks or so ago, in terms of what automation, sort of what aspects of automation you want to get, so what aspects of recruitment process you want to get rid of. And number one was AI note taking. 52% said they want to get rid of it, which is positive in the sense that obviously we now understand that we can get rid of this part of the work, but also the fact that there's still a massive number of people that are still doing manual sort of writing down stuff. So that's a huge waste that's going to be changed. And number two was interview scheduling. So 27% said, yeah, we're going to implement interview scheduling sort of software next year, which again is another sort of part of wastage. So what does this paint the picture of, folks? Companies are shrinking, TA teams are going to be shrinking. Maybe we're all going to be a bit more AI enabled. What does that mean for recruiters on the job market? Becky, you got any thoughts on this? I mean, how would you advise sort of recruiters right now on the market looking? What do they need to do in order to be an appealing and attractive candidate?
So I think personally that TA at the moment is on a knife edge. And, you know, we can see that the job economy for TA is broken. So there are less roles. You can just even look at the Indeed hiring stats. So there has been an overall plummeting of roles. There's an increase of AI. And we're also seeing lack of investment. So even if you look at the new incorporation of the national insurance contribution, for example, in the UK, if you've got 10,000 people in your workforce, it's going to cost you at least 14 million as an employer, right? So I think it's pretty bleak out there. And I think that the issue that we have is that the playbook, so, you know, we've got AI, we've got this expectation that we should be automating, we should be more efficient. But in all honesty, what I see when I'm in organizations is that TA is behind, and you know, most companies are operating at level 1 or 2 and they want to be at level 5. And what I mean by that is basic recruitment processes have not been mapped out, but yet, you know, there is this desire to move, you know, to this full automation. So I think this idea that the previous playbook needs to be reinvented, and that's why we're on a knife edge. And I think that TA people need to stand out in the way that we come up with better solutions. So, you know, if we're no longer involved in some of these basic tasks you know, that could be automated, then how are we finally solving the big ticket items like workforce planning, strategic workforce planning? But I think that we need to reinvent ourselves and also claim the space in different areas within. So it could be within talent, it could be, you know, within workforce planning. The way to stand out is it's really tricky because it's very hard because AI has leveled everyone up. So you can just all, change your CV, you can modify yourself, you can be an inauthentic candidate, which is the big risk for employers right now. So we're going back to human-centered solutions. So you've got to be a headhunter yourself, headhunting yourself back into an organization. So deploying the skills that we're good at. So there's recently there was somebody in a WhatsApp group that I'm on. And a lot of people, TA leaders in particular, really struggling to get roles, right? And applying for roles, there is no point in applying for roles anymore, if we're being honest, right? So what this person said, he basically, saw the role being advertised, and he developed a engagement strategy with that organisation to stand out. So it's all about employer brand. So if we're thinking about AI, if every organisation with TA practice has leveled up with AI, how is an organisation going to stand out? It will be through their employer brand. So as a TA practitioner, we now need to become brand ambassadors of ourselves. So that's what I mean about the knife edge, right? We don't know what's next, and I think we've got to be brave, and we've got to claim the space, and we've got to start standing out and showcasing how our skills add value. I know it's a long-winded, I'm trying to bring it all together, but it is tough out there, and we are on a knife edge.
Can I just add to that, by the way, the point about like don't apply for a job. I mean, there's a guy who works in my team who didn't see a job advertised because I wasn't hiring for anybody. But he saw our company, he contacted me, he did some software development work, he sent me some stuff and said, this would be great as an addition to your product. I've developed it so you can see what it would look like. I went, oh my word, that is amazing. Yeah. He literally worked his way into a job in my company.
I did the same, if I'm being perfectly honest, in Join Talent, right? So Join Talent is brilliant, by the way. So I agree with Emma. Embedded RPO solutions, organizations now want to flex their workforce and have different solutions. And so with Join Talent, when I was on the market, I presented myself to Join Talent and developed a statement of work, full synopsis, and ended up running their whole early career strategy. So you've got to now become exec search, develop your exec search skills in the way of getting into organizations as just as much as we're TA professionals and trying to headhunt outwards. We now need to go inwards. So it's about how do we add value, and it's tough. And you in all honesty, applying for jobs is a complete waste of time because there are thousands of applications, right? So how do you stand out? And in all honesty, where I see people standing out are the ones that are contacting those organizations directly and, demonstrating how they're going to add value, and they're actually doing more research and providing solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam, let me just say this, because we've got to move on to the next phase. But folks, I think this is a very strong commentary here, but also I can understand just reading the frustration of people that have been applying. It's really, really damaging. So have you thought about other ways in which you can get yourself in? Network value, get your profile up there, become more visible. People need to know who you are. It's not who you know. It's like, do people know who you are? How do you do your work? All that stuff is part of this. So very, very important stuff as well. Okay, so we know where we're at. Guys, we're going to have to move on next stage. I'm going to bring on some people who are basically heads of function right now, and then they're going to talk to us from there. So I'm going to have to say goodbye to Andrea and Rebecca, or Becky, should I say, and Willem. I'm going to say goodbye to you, and Emma as well. Great to see you guys. We'll get you back at another point, obviously. So thank you very much. Okay, super interesting. But let's hear it from folks who are currently in position, and then we're gonna figure out how that looks from there. So let me just see whether these guys are still in. So go ahead, Adam.
While you're bringing people on, I just want to pose a question, maybe for the chat here, which is. Yep. Becky and Emma both talked about the importance of workforce planning, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's really vital. However, we don't have very many food scientists who are spending their day trying to work out how to turn water into wine, because it's probably not going to happen. How much time should we really put into trying to nail workforce planning? Because maybe it's not something that we can ever do. Maybe it's just completely out with the realms of like something you can develop a solution for.
Yep, quite possibly. It's always been out of our wheelhouse. Who does workforce planning? It's CFOs, basically. They start with a budget and then they kind of calculate it in. So what are we going to do about all of this? Anyway, possible? Let us know. Yeah, let us know in the chat what your thoughts on this. Do TA need to be involved in workforce planning? And if so, how do we do it? And if not, why not? Okay, but we have some guests here as well. Let's go with the intros. Tim Sanchez, let's start with you. Who are you? What it is you do, sir?
Hey everyone, hey Hung, how's it going? Tim Sanchez, I'm the head of talent for Grupo Mariposa. We are a company that started in Central America and Guatemala, Hung. And I'm very proud to say we were Pepsi Cola. We were the first international partner outside of the US. We're 16,000 employees in over 20 countries.
Give me a sec, Tim. I don't know whether I heard quite a breaking type of sound there. Is everyone else see that or not?
Yeah, it's Tim's headphones.
Yeah, Tim, I think your headphones are a little bit off. Can you, I don't know, maybe get the headphones off and stuff like this? That might be useful. Okay, Jim, thank you by the way, Tim. Jim, good to see you, sir. Wonderful cardigan, by the way. I need to up my game. What the heck am I doing? Wonderful stuff. Jim, can you quickly introduce yourself, who are you, what it is you do?
Thanks very much. I'm Jim Miller. I lead the people and TA function at Ashby. To me, it's my dream job. I get to play with the product, help with the product design and everything else. And previous to this, I spent 15 years at Google and I got to design an ATS there as well. And I just get access to tons and tons of data as well within what I do. So happy to be part of this.
The dream sort of recruitment job. And by the way, Tim, Jim, I've just shared your LinkedIn URL. What the heck are you doing with this URL?
We actually got ordered at Google to change our LinkedIn URLs one day because there was a doxing thing happening. So I just put my finger on the M button and took it off and went, fine, that's it. It's completely random. And now it's become part of my brand. It's very odd.
Wow. I love this. So basically it is an anti sort of, it's a security sort of impulse or kind of priority. And now you've turned it into a massive branding sort of issue. I love it.
Willem and team actually put it on my business cards and it wraps all the way around the back.
That's crazy. You have to check out this URL from Jim Miller. And we have Andrea Marston as well. Andrea, wonderful to see you. Quickly introduce yourself. Who are you? What it is you do, Minute?
Hi, I've now got I've got URL envy now, and I wish I'd done the same. So I'm very impressed, Jim. But hi everyone, I'm Andrea Marston. I'm the EMEA TA director at Nutanix, a software company. We're about 8,000 people globally. And I've been there only about 3 months. And so I was looking for a role earlier on in the year, found a great role. And so I'm seeing it from both sides. And now I'm hiring as well. So seeing it for all the way around.
Seeing it from 3 sides, Andrea. So let's hit with you firstly. So as a job seeker, what did you find a state of TA in 2024?
Yeah, I had the luxury of taking some time because I was coming out of VMware Broadcom, took the redundancy package and then was able to take some time to go and find the right thing. But I networked like a demon, and that is what got me the role. So nothing else of the usual stuff that you would have done years ago, none of the agencies applying for roles, none of that actually worked. It was all about networking. And yes, I was ghosted by a couple of people who I know well. So that was an interesting experience, seeing it from that side as well.
Let's talk about those two things in separation. You say networking, it's one of those nebulous terms, and everyone kind of contribute your thoughts on this. What do you mean by networking, folks? Like networking? How? What do I do if I don't know this? I'm getting go ahead and network. What do you mean?
I was super sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm in immediately, but I was super intentional about it. If I saw a role that I thought looked interesting, I didn't just apply for the role. That was already too late. I did go into the companies and see who do I know, who would vouch for me, who could I talk to be another name there. I also contacted a ton of people that I've worked with in the past at companies that I thought I could be a good fit for. So I thought, reverse engineer it, where could I add value, and then approach those companies with my value.
Yeah, really good. So listen, a job ad is, yes, you can go through the front door, but listen, there's all kinds of doors you can get into. Network around the business. Have a look at who you know. That's what LinkedIn is there for. That's the initial value of LinkedIn. Go ahead and reach out to those people and see whether you can get in through another place, because that front door is going to be jam-packed. It's going to be a massive, it's like a nightclub in the 1990s. It'd be a queue around the corner. You want to join that queue, or do you want secret entrance around the back? Okay, Jim, your thoughts on networking. Do you have a technique, sort of a tip?
Yeah, you've got to pitch yourself. You've got to write your own pen profile, and then pitch yourself directly for the thing that's going to trigger the interest in the person receiving it. I actually pitched myself for the job I'm in now, straight to the CEO, and thankfully he turned around and went, "We hoped you'd ask." So that was a great validation of that. But that's the piece. You've got to do your research first and get that action point in there of why you.
So self-awareness important, right? You got to go through the introspection of your career, like what have you done and what kind of consistent value you add. If you've done more than 1, 2, 3 jobs or whatever, you probably have a little bit of an inkling as to what kind of recruiter you are, and what you thrive in, what's the environment you thrive in. You've got to be able to basically knock that out in a 60-second, the elevator pitch. You need to have that down, right? Very good. Tim, your thoughts on this? Networking, what do you do?
Is my audio working again? Is it better?
Yep, you good.
Beautiful. Thank you for the patience, everyone. So yeah, I agree. There's a common thread here.
It's still a bit bad, Tim. I'm sorry to say.
No.
It's probably the mic. It's all right. We can still roll with it. But it's a bit choppy. But go ahead and say what you need to say.
Networking is key. It absolutely is. Networking. I've received most of my jobs through networking and connecting with people.
Yeah, cool. Tim, we're gonna have to try and fix the mic there if you can. We'll bring you back. Let me know whether you can come back in a little sec. Otherwise, we're struggling to hear. Such a shame. But these things do happen. Adam, Gordon, we need a networking tip from you. You're a serial entrepreneur. What do you go and do to make sure people know who you are, and you've got the mind space, connection with the value and stuff like this? What's your approach, man?
I mean, I can't add much more than what Andrea said. I think it was absolutely excellent. I think that was a really great tip. But I should say that there's a lot of things that need exactly the same focus. There's people in here whose job is to sell things, like me, for example. That is exactly the same as recruitment. And it's exactly the same as if you're raising investment. And that's exactly the same as if you are looking for a job. You got to go and pitch yourself to the right people. Andrea said it. You got to go and identify who all those are, use your network, work out how to get from A to B, join the dots. And another thing that I think is really important is, like, if you've got one opportunity, you're in a bad position. If you've got 10 opportunities, then you are in a very good position, and you want as many as possible. 10's better than 9, 9's better than 8. You need to line up as many as you can. The amount of times I've seen people going, yeah, I think I'm about to get an offer. And then they go, shit, I didn't get that offer. And they're back to square one because they stopped their job search a week ago. And they the plates are no longer spinning. Don't do that.
Quick question for the crowd. Does anybody here operate like a personal CRM for the job search? Like, do you have something which basically pipelines your opportunities? Because if you don't, you probably want to think about that. You have to get into the mentality of thinking, right, this is how I'm going to organize my job search. You're not just sitting on Indeed and doing applications. It's like putting all of your key prospects into a system that you can view and think, what stage am I there? Oh, I have not actually had a conversation with anybody there for X amount of time. Guess what? There's an action point there that you need to operate on. And once you have it in a system, by the way, you can start actually applying some of these automation things that we're talking about. So you can accelerate what you're doing. Okay. Before we go further, we want to do one more thing. Sorry, Adam, real quick, because we always do this in the middle of every show, but it is part of what I want to try and do to help everyone get more networked. And I do mean like just boosting your LinkedIn numbers actually does help purely on the quantity alone, because it means that your reach is just simply bigger. So grab your LinkedIn URL, folks. drop it in the comment thread. If you're watching this on Crowdcast, if you're watching this on any of the LinkedIns, just grab your LinkedIn URL, drop it in the comment threads there, and then just connect with everyone else who's doing the same. We've got like loads of people watching the show, hundreds of people on different channels. You've got an opportunity of simply boosting the numbers of people that you can connect with, talk to, share knowledge with, and so on. Go ahead and do that, and make sure you connect with everyone that's done the same. Okay, Adam, you're about to say something, so go ahead.
It was just one last quick extension to what I said about my tips for like networking. Everybody's got different preferences for how they want to receive communication and digest information. And so like if your strategy is one of your tactics is going to be, I'm going to create content, do blogs, do videos, get on stage, join Brain Food Live, like do multiple different forms of content, because then more people are going to get your message. And an extension of that is, don't send somebody 5 LinkedIn messages without reply. If they're not replying, it's probably either they don't like your message or they're just not there. They're not looking at your messages on there. Find their email address and contact them that way. Find their multiple different channels and multiple content formats. That's going to work best if you can make the time to do it.
Who is it in the show that earlier that talked about an engagement strategy? Was that Becky? I can't remember. It was somebody. But that is actually a good approach. Like if you can ID, let's say 100 companies, you think, you know what, I think I'd really like to work for those companies. You should have an engagement strategy against those businesses. And I don't mean just blasting an email to all the people and say, I need a job. It's like, okay, who are the key decision makers? Can I find a way to connect with them? Can I engage with them online? Even if it's just liking some of their posts or whatnot, those things help because it means that you simply get a little bit closer than you were before. And when you do need to come and make the big ask, you might actually be recognized in some way, or you might have some familiarity with your own sort of name or personal profile. Similar to Jim's like massive URL, like people are going to know this, and then suddenly that's going to help in some undefinable way. So yeah, we should do a 101 on all of this, like get all of the ideas in one place and aggregate it all. Anyway, other things to talk about other than job search. Jim, give us some good news, because we've had a little bit of oh my goodness, it's terrible, it's tough. What do you see as positive in the TA space 2024?
I'd like to just say one more thing about the application piece. You've got to build a modular resume CV these days. You need to be able to switch in the bullet points in and out to meet the criteria stated on the job description, because the AI assistive tooling, you're never going to get past it unless you're aligning your resume, your CV to the actual job criteria. So you build the library of content, switch the bullet points in and out to meet the job. That's my one tip from the other side of the seat. What am I seeing at the moment? On the TA side, the people that are getting picked up and hired are deeply consultative. They're thought partners. They've got strong operational capability, process design, systems integration. Everyone is expecting the change to happen. They're hiring the people in TA who can see all of this and put together processes that culturally define the company in terms of how they hire. So then tooling can be laid on top of that supports that process. That's what I'm seeing coming. It's not so much the transactional recruiters who are being hired anymore. The people being picked up have got deep recruiting experience, but they're using that to coach the hiring managers and so on inside the departments, because I'm seeing more and more self-service recruiting models where the hiring managers are doing the calls, the first calls. The hiring managers are closing the candidates. There are recruiters now who are getting full credit for making hires they never even speak to. They might even source the person, but because of send on behalf of, the candidate gets all the way through the process and didn't even know that individual existed. But they're the player coach behind the scenes. And if you're not thinking deeply about process and technology and how it works within TA, you're going to struggle to get into those types of roles these days, because the rest of the transactional work within TA is either going to automation, so all the repetitive manual tasks, we've already talked about it, or the actual outreach pieces and any engagement on those lines. That's where the RPOs, the offshoring, all of those pieces are coming into play. So you'll have far fewer people, but they'll be really deep experts across a multifaceted TA approach. And that's key, but there's going to be a problem downstream, because if you don't build the people behind, eventually you're going to have a skills shortage of those people with that expertise who actually know how to deal with the human elements of this. It's going to be fascinating over the next few years.
Yeah, really interesting vision. Andrea, you need to say something or deal with something in your house. There's something going on.
It's really
Go
bad.
ahead.
My cleaner's just arrived. She was really late. I need to let her in.
Of course, go ahead.
Really middle class.
Listen, I know the state of your house. Go ahead. The clean needs cleaning. Go ahead.
At least I'm honest.
No worries. Come back when you've let the lady in, or let the individual in, should I say? Okay, Jim, really interesting vision on this. So you're saying that the self-service model is by the way, that's supported by tech innovation. A lot of the technology that's being built, the product features and so on, they're actually being, the audience for that is not a recruiter, it's actually the hiring manager. And that's rightly so, because they are actually the true recruiter, right? We're the person that brokers the information in. We've never made the hiring decision in truth be told. So the hiring manager is going to do that. And therefore, the sort of skills that we are looking for in our teams will be different. They're not going to be, necessarily the hero sourcer, let's say, or they're not going to be someone who's hyper organized and doing all of these things. Someone who's very close to the business and able, I love the player coach concept. So the hiring managers may be the people doing the bulk of the recruiting, as we know, assisted by AI. But who's making decisions on technology? Who's helping making sure the utilization of the technology is high? Who's trying to recruiters who come in, the recruiters might come in to kind of intervene when a hiring manager is struggling, support that hiring manager through, coach them through it, train them through it. That may be the future. Andrea Marston, you mentioned you're hiring TAs for right now for your team. So have you changed in any way your thought process as to what skill set is that you want now for your group? I mean, what's gone up in the priority list and what's gone down?
Yeah. Well, obviously it's a new organization that I'm hiring in now than I was before. I am looking for full life cycle recruiting. So we don't have a separate sourcing team, and that is different to where I was at previously, although not different to years ago. And the key thing that I'm looking for that's probably different to 2 years ago is I'm looking for people who are really good at using tools and using as much AI as possible in that to help with the sourcing, to help with coordination, all those kind of pieces, and adding the human element. So I want recruiters who are excellent at stakeholder management, who are really strong at understanding what this data is telling them and how to do something different with the search. So, because the AI tools out there, LinkedIn Recruiter, whatever, none of them are doing everything. We still need a really good recruiter who's got that kind of almost blend of art and science to know what makes a great candidate, what makes a great left field candidate, what makes someone want to actually buy into that role. So it's all these really human elements that I think have become even more important now. But also attached to my team, I'm looking for different skills. I'm always looking for complementary skills to my team. I have a really good team of recruiters already. I'm looking for specific skills, like, for example, a German speaker, because that would be really useful in the team. We don't have anyone that speaks German right now. So I want a native German speaker to join the team, as well as all these other elements that they need to have as well.
No, really interesting. I think AI enablement, like an AI-enabled recruiter, is almost like a standard now, isn't it? I mean, if you're a head of TA, head of department, that's got to be one of the questions you're going to ask your potential candidates coming to join your team. It's like, okay, what tools are you using? How do you get better at this? It reminds me very much of the digitization era, 20 years or so ago, when, you're hiring new people coming in. It's like, do you know how to Google? You need to know people that are fluent with technologies that's going to really change the sort of how we do the job. So anybody listening to this, folks, it's one of the things you have to do. You've got to create the bandwidth to AI enable yourself. Don't wait for Microsoft to roll it into you. You got to dive in yourself and figure it out. Now, you've also got to use the optimization that you're going to get from these tools to then expand the job that you currently do. You need to then move away from all of the things that AI can do better than you, and start thinking about, okay, what are the things that AI struggles with? And again, stakeholder management, I think, is definitely one of those, because relationships typically are not documented. I mean, you're a very weird person if you document all of your relationships. What is the case is that those relationships emerge through interaction over time. A lot of it is either not documented or it's like scattered across in an unstructured way. But you and the other person should have some intuition as to how that thing's evolving and developing. And that is very difficult to AI, essentially. So, being able to learn how to do those human-to-human influence things are super, super important. Okay, cool. Jim, I think you wanted to say something. So go ahead and say something.
I just wanted to touch on actually Katrina's comment, because I think that's key. Katrina says she wants to connect with candidates so she can build the excitement about us and the role, build loyalty, and so on and so forth. I'd argue it's not the recruiter anymore, though. You're coaching the hiring manager on how to do that thing, because that's what we know really well. That's the future value of us in recruiting. And then that plays all the way through, and you're coaching them on how to make and land the offer and every step in between. You're also watching and supporting them to avoid the interview that's creating false positives. That's where we're going to be. So that's really where you should be pitching yourself in the roles where you've got the company who has lots of technology deployed within TA. Those are the focus points. Going back to pitching yourself and identifying the problem, these are the key skills there. But it's not the recruiter necessarily holding those human relationships, but they haven't disappeared. It's just somebody else playing that role.
Yeah, very, very interesting. The interaction between technology and human work, those two things kind of will feed into each other. So they're kind of they'll change each other in this way. And we just got to be cognizant of those changes and make sure you're positioning yourself in the right space. Very, very interesting. Okay, talk to us about where you think technology is going to go next. Jim, I mean, I guess this is more focused on you. Putting on your product development hat, obviously don't sort of tell us anything we're not meant to know. But what things are sort of ATS is producing that might impact or influence how TA teams kind of operate?
I think that the higher level conversation and everyone in TA has been very much focused on what does selective AI look like. And that's what I'm not really seeing coming to the market being successful. And there's a whole bunch of legal ramifications, and I'm no lawyer. But it's the assistive AI pieces. And Willem listed a whole bunch of the different sets of functionality that we've released in the last 12 months, from sourcing functionality to the AI assistive resume review and so on. And that's removing the manual task, repetitive nature pieces. The key development I see in 2025 is not necessarily any wow innovation, but it's how people will string together those different elements of their tooling, which is easy to do if it's all within one system like Ashby, but there are so many point solution ecosystems out there as well. And if you string those things together in the right way, the compound impact of that technology, that's gonna be the wow moment for what happens next year. And then I think that will then lead into further innovation beyond that point. But it's putting these pieces together almost like Lego to then build something that it's just astounding from something actually relatively simple.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Andrea, your thoughts on this? Technologies that you think that are going to change how TA teams operate? What kind of things are exciting for you right now?
Yeah. So I'm loving a couple of the tools that we're using, and because people are asking which tools we use, there is a lot to talk about Findem at the moment, because it's probably the closest thing we've had to replacing LinkedIn Recruiter in a long time. But and there are other tools out there, just to be clear. I'm not paid by Findem, but there's other stuff. There's other stuff that's really cool, depending on which part of the funnel is your problem. You know, we have way too many applicants coming through for certain roles, where other roles we have, it doesn't matter how many applicants we've got, none of them are the right type of people, and it's all about the sourcing. So we've still got the same problems that we've had before. The AI tools that get me excited are the ones that help write job descriptions in the way we want, that then start to peel out things like the competencies, the interview questions, whatever you're doing according to your process, and peeling those out. So you're taking away all those admin aspects for a recruiter that have always held us back. And I think that's where the real potential is. So it's not magic sourcing. It is where all the repetitive things that a recruiter does right now that are low value, that's where I can see all these tools really creating the fun, bringing the fun back into the role. I mean, I've had recruiters complaining about admin loads for the last 15 years. So I'd love to get rid of as much of that as possible.
And I think that is going to be the case whether we like it or not. So we need to be embracing the change, folks. This is the wave coming in. You ride the wave. You don't just stand there hoping it isn't there. That's what we've got to do. Okay, listen, we're going to let you guys go. Thank you very much, Andrea Marston. Wonderful to see you. Hopefully we can catch up before Christmas, by the way. I don't know when you're off to wherever you go, because you obviously have dramatic holidays everywhere. But if you're around in London before then and 24th or whatever, let me know. We'll go get a lunch or something, okay?
Sounds good.
Cool. Jim, wonderful to see you. Great to have your contribution. I love sort of some of your vision on where we're going to go on this. Loads of conversations we're going to have in 2025. Love to drop you into some of those chats as well if you're up for it. Keep up with the amazing branding, and do drop a note as to where you got your jumper from. I think it's a hot item. I'm going to buy. Jim, great to see you, man.
He looks like straight out of the Nordics, right? He's gone straight to Norway and bought a jumper.
He does. It's sort of very much on brand. He should be in the Faroe Islands somewhere. That would be ideal. But no, listen, that was a really interesting conversation, and I think that we're in a very interesting moment with TA. But the TA is not isolated from the rest of the companies, as you mentioned, Adam. Every organization is looking to right size. We don't know what right size is. It's going to be smaller, but it means that the folks that are able to understand the sort of skills that are durable and valuable, they're the ones that are going to really succeed. It's going to be just super dramatic in the world of TA, that's for sure. Okay, folks, listen, we're out of time, so we're going to have to let you go. Thanks for watching. We've got 2 more shows, by the way, before you go. We're going to do sustainable hiring in healthcare in Monday the 16th. Don't forget about this. They had a massive snafu 2-3 weeks or so ago on the technical side. We're going to repeat that show. So if you're interested in healthcare recruiting, which, by the way, is one of those sectors that is consistently problematic almost worldwide. We are aging society. We don't have enough people to look after individuals that basically are getting more ill simply because we're living longer. Therefore, we're always going to need practitioners. How do we do that? How do we fix it? That's the topic we're going to be talking about on Monday at 4 p.m. And next Friday, on the 20th, is going to be our final show of the year. It's going to be open mic, folks. It's going to be a case where I'm going to bring on all of the sponsors, all of the panelists, all of the guests. We're going to just talk through the year, have a good laugh, have a few drinks. If you want to come and join and say a few things on screen, come ahead and do that. Both shows are live right now, so you can register them both. Follow the channel on Crowdcast if you're interested in being notified on that. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn and you'll get notified whenever those things come live. So thanks for everyone to watching today. We'll see you on Monday. Cool. Very interesting. We didn't get the screen shares, which I wanted to do. That's my fault. So sorry to Emma and Willem on that. But we have their data and we'll share that. That's all interesting. But yeah, we're in a fascinating place, aren't we, mate?
I was going to say it earlier and then I forgot, or you muted me or something. But I was going to say, I've got it. Like, I started working. I left university and started working in 1999 in recruiting. I do not remember, and I've been in and around this space since then, I do not remember a tougher time in this space for people doing the job and for people selling things to people doing the job. And I include the pandemic in this. I include the first year of the pandemic in that. 2020, there was more decisions being made than there are now in December 2024. It was this is tougher than it's ever been.
Yeah, I agree. It's tougher than GFC. Great financial crisis. We saw the end of that in 18 months. But this is basically a fundamental shift. I don't think it's cyclical. It's a fundamental shift that we probably haven't seen for decades. We're going to have to really rethink, redraw. We have to be prepared for change. I think individuals have just got to be as agile as possible, and I mean agile with this, small a. I don't mean the discipline. Agile meaning you don't quite know what's coming at you. You just got to have the muscle memory to dodge quick and to adapt quickly. Because we're in that sort of, and get into training, get into training to adapt quickly. That's something we've all got to do. And I'm kind of talking to myself here because I'm not immune to any of this. I'm part of the industry. Yeah, we all
none of us are. And actually one of the challenges I think is I mean, this is a broad generalization, but the older you are, the less likely you are to be able to want to adapt because you're tired, right? And so, but you just have to keep up. If you don't keep up, I'm happy to go, and it's not ageism to describe facts. I mean, the truth of the matter is, you as you get older, not only does your energy go down, but you've already developed like systems and techniques that work for you. But then you've got to understand that those systems and techniques worked in that environment. If that environment changes, those systems no longer work. You've got to change those systems, otherwise you're going to get hurt. Continuously adapting is draining, though, right? And so, like, I mean, you and I are middle-aged, I guess, and like by middle, like we're not early career and we're not at retirement, so we're like probably mid-career. You got to keep adapting until you're like faster and faster until you're 60 or 65 or whatever. I don't know. That's like pretty draining sounding to me. And I don't want to be all doom and gloom about it. I don't want to say like, hey, most people just like go and find something else to do, give it up. But at the same time, I don't want to sugarcoat it and say it's not tough. Like, people need to realize it really is really tough right now.
Hey, listen, I'm doing a review series on LinkedIn. I don't know whether you don't read my LinkedIn, but basically the first bullet point with reviewing 2024 was it's the end of naive optimism, which I thought was a good thing, because we can't just sugarcoat it and say, yeah, next year is going to be better. No, it was a fundamental shift, folks. So what we have to do is just embrace that and then understand what it looks like. We don't have to like it to embrace it. It's like, okay, you know what? We had a different timeline 5 years ago. We're down this timeline now. You have to sort of get the energy in and take your own responsibility. I think part of the problem we have a little bit, and this is not just recruiting, but just life-wise, is if you're waiting for external things to change to your benefit, that is just the wrong approach. You know what I mean? It's like you have got to take action, action orientation. It makes you feel better, even if you get it wrong. Go and try something, go and push forward somehow. That's going to make the difference. So yeah. Anyway, what are you doing this weekend? Anything interesting?
Panto tomorrow night.
Not interesting. But I understand you. I understand you got kids that age.
You don't want to see Peter Pan at the Royal Concert Hall in Glasgow?
No,
or the King's Theatre, or whatever.
I'd have some noise cancelling sort of earphones sort of hidden in my buried in my ears somehow, and
it'll be rammed with adult-only smut that the kids it'll go over their heads. So
yeah, there'll be hilarious stuff for the adults. I get you right.
Yeah, there always is lots of euphemisms. I'm also going to candlelight carol service on Sunday evening.
Very nice.
And there's some good sport on this weekend. I don't know if there's any good boxing, but there's definitely some good rugby on this weekend. What about you?
I don't know. I've got my nephew's birthday tomorrow, so I should really turn up to that. Even though I was there last week with his bouncy castle and all this, so I'm like kind of overdoing it. But I'll probably go there, and I've got another mate's birthday in the same evening, so I've got to shoot back to London and have a few drinks with him. So it's going to be a heavy week, unfortunately. No rest for the wicked. But anyway, let's let you go. Adam, good to see you. As always, we'll be back next week. Let's do the open mic on the 20th, and we'll pick it up from there, okay?
Cheers, man. Bye.
Take it easy.